Good morning, campers. Welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood, a Percy Jackson Relong podcast. I am your host, Zach, and today we are now in the Camp Half-Blood rec room. Oh my god, there's so many folding chairs and tables. Oh god, why? But something big is happening. We actually had an announcement. The Oracle came, and by Oracle means Twitter and a bunch of other social medias. And Percy Jackson, you know what, guys and girls? It's a Disney Plus streaming show coming out soon, hopefully. And we've assembled pretty much the Avengers Endgame. We have all the portals opening up. And we all have our microphones strapped. And I am so excited.
You're left.
Oh, God, thank you. Woo. So we actually have assembled all the Percy Jackson podcasts. This sounds like we've assembled all the clans, and we are now
an elite team.
We're the elite special ops team. So why don't you guys all introduce yourselves?
I'm B. You guys know me from Radio Camp Half-Blood.
Hey there, my name is Brayden. I'm from the Demigod podcast, soon to be resurrected from the dead sometime soon.
And hello, I am Natalie. I am one half of Floor 600 podcast.
Hi, I'm Robert. I'm the damn meme page on Twitter, and I also have my own podcast, Consult the Oracle.
Hi, I'm Fran, and I am the host of the Best Damn Camp. And don't worry, no, I'm not saying a bad word. It's damn with one M.
I'm Samuel, co-host of the Half-Blood Report.
He's one half and I'm the other. Nice to meet you. It's Diego.
And I'm Zach, host of Radio Camp Half-Blood, and I am so excited for you all to be here. Now, my first question for everybody, you can all say this in unison. How excited are you guys that this is happening?
Oh, so excited.
Muy excited.
Yeah.
Muy
Very
excited.
I think I passed out.
I wanted that
a few
guacamole
times,
recipe.
Ooh, guacamole sounds good.
In some ways, I feel a little
didn't work.
guilty,
It didn't
actually, because so many people waited really long, and I've only been a fan for 2 years.
Fake fan.
I'm a fake fan. I only read the books for 2 years and analyzed them deeply.
So we're going to be doing our little roundtable discussion, and how we're going to do this is everyone's going to be taking turns so we can all get our thoughts and feelings out because we're all super passionate. How passionate it is, we literally had to get everybody, and scheduling this was a lot of fun, but we've done it, and it's awesome. So, B, I'll let you go first.
Yeah. Well, you texted me, but I definitely saw it on Twitter first because I think that's pretty unavoidable with the people I follow. Even not like the specific Percy Jackson people. It seemed like out of the woodwork were all these like Percy Jackson fans who were like, I loved that series when I was 12 and now I'm excited again, which was kind of strange that it was culturally relevant and was reminding me a lot of doing my other podcast, Unfortunate Associates, and when all of a sudden the Unfortunate Events fandom like rose from the dead overnight. It's a similar sort of sensation. It's weird in some ways to both be a part of this zeitgeist and be like, oh, I'm a part of this fandom, but I kind of like what I was saying, I do have this weird like sense of imposter syndrome in some ways because I didn't grow up with the books. I don't have like that nostalgia, but I'm excited for it in a different way. And I've definitely like grown to care about the characters in a way I maybe didn't anticipate.
I first found out about it, so I was working when the announcement came out, and of course we have our group chat and everything, and as I'm driving and my phone's up on the holder, I just see all of the messages for the chat and everything going on, and I'm kind of looking at it, kind of not, because, driving. And when I was able to stop, I briefly looked at the chat, and I was getting messages on Demipod's Instagram from our listeners, and that's how I found out. Then I went on to Twitter and looked at the official announcement. But I was able to kind of hear about it from the fan base, which was super cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I knew that it was happening at like 3 o'clock, which I think it was like 2 o'clock my time, and at like 1:55 I was sitting in front of my computer with Twitter loaded on Rick's account and just like refreshing until they dropped this 18-second video, and I may or may not have watched it like 4 times in a row. So, and then I just kind of freaked out about it for like a solid hour.
Yeah. Let's see. When I first, my first thoughts were, oh my god, this is happening. Like, literally just the Michael Scott gif, playing in my head. Oh my god, it's happening. Everyone stay calm. I had to wait until I got off work to really check. And so by the time I checked, it was already the big news of the hour. And I mean, even now, when I try and think about like, oh, it's going to probably happen soon, I still can't believe it.
I have the notifications for Rick's Twitter and Instagram set up. So as soon as the notification bell went off, I went and watched. I saw the video and I cried for about 10 minutes straight afterwards, to the point that I scared my mum because she thought something terrible had happened. And when I told her, she walked out of the room and just couldn't believe that I was crying over a TV show announcement. But I'm still slightly in shock, but I am very excited, and I can't calm down about the entire news, and I am an adult.
Rick announced that there was going to be like an announcement earlier in the week, and so then and so then I made this whole Twitter thread on, because everyone was like saying, oh my gosh, it's totally going to be the announcement for a TV show. So I made a Twitter thread like, no, it's not. Don't get your hopes up. But then I kind of seemed more receptive just because like so many people were saying it. I was like, okay, maybe it's more possible. And so then, I was like Natalie. I like Natalie was just reloading his Twitter and Instagram because I didn't know which he was going to post it. So I just alternatively reloaded. And then, when the video came out, I was just like, I feel the moment I hit play, I knew what Rick was going to say, but it was just the same sort of like crazy excitement that everyone else has kind of echoed.
I think the experience was a bit different for me because I have this thing called school. You guys may have forgotten about it.
I have school too.
No. I know you guys do, but I don't know. I just kind of like went along with my day, and then I was like really, really like bored at some point after I finished my homework, and I was like, oh, let's go check through the Twitter and see if anything's happened. And I like pull up the Twitter, and then I'm like, whoa, Samuel's been tweeting a lot of things, because I just like see like a billion notifications. And then I like go over to like our profile, and for some reason like nothing was there at the top of the thread. And I look, and it's like we have like 61 like more followers than we did like last time I checked. And I was like, huh, that's weird. Samuel must have like done something, right? And then I like start scrolling down a bit, and it's like, Rick's announcement. I was like, oh, right, Rick was going to do an announcement. It was that guacamole recipe, right? So then I like go over and like hit on Rick, and it's just like a video. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to watch that. So I scroll down some more, and he's like, the guacamole recipe and everything. And then for some reason, like, I don't know why it wasn't there at first, but then like there's this little like he pinned like to his account this little like text box, right? And I hit it and I read it. I'm like, a TV show? Damn. And then I go over and watch the video, like knowing like what it is now. And I was pretty excited because like at first, for some reason, it hadn't like clicked for me, like what it would mean for Percy Jackson to be a TV show. Like I was really confused as to what that was going to be. Like, was it just going to be like the Percy Jackson universe? And like we were going to get new characters who were going to go around Camp Half-Blood and do things? Or was it like the Heroes of Olympus series like done? Or was it just like the first book or something? And he kind of said that it was the Lightning Thief, and I was like, oh, that makes more sense. And I was like, thank God, because he needs to fix the mistake that was those movies. and then like after thinking about it for some more time, I kind of got what was going on, and I like just like imagined like how if Rick was like behind the writing of it, every single like cut to ads or like cut or whatever when it like does the little thingy bingy on a TV show was just gonna be like super cliffhangery, like ending a book or like a chapter, but like he literally gets to end the book or a chapter. Like he just gets to like cut it, as opposed to me just flipping the page. He can just end it, and it can be like black for as long as he wants. And I thought that was kind of cool.
So for me, I knew something was up when my phone was getting so many notifications that it literally died on me because I was out hiking. and I knew one of two things happened. One, Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss hasn't a release date, or there was a Percy Jackson show, because my phone only has two types of people that like fantasy books and people that like Percy Jackson at this point in my life. And the occasional movie, but because there's no movies going on, I'm not getting any notifications from them. So
Maybe if they made it in all the wrong questions.
I would be shocked, actually. But also, I think
I was going to say Scoob came out recently, so you could have gotten a notification about
I could.
Scoob.
I got too many people talking about Duke Dastardly and like all those things. But it's interesting because my first thought of this was very similar to my first thought of seeing. B will probably get this. The first fake trailer for Series of Unfortunate Events and seeing it and just being super excited. And then the one thing
trailer.
The one thing I'll never forget about that is afterwards. This was back in like peak Tumblr days where someone made a fake scavenger hunt that we all thought was real and you had like call numbers and stuff. And that was the kind of excitement that kind of happened with this. Was like, first thought is like, okay, I know something's going to be happening with this because Rick had to change his name. That's one of the stipulations with Disney. You can't have fake names. Like Camp Half-Blood, you have to have your true name if you're going to be a creator for something. As well as Rick had been invited a couple times to LA, which means that he was having more meetings. So I kind of knew something was going on, especially during the beginning of the pandemic. So Disney wants to meet with him. It's probably something really important. So I just sat there and waited my time. But when it came, I still was very happy, and I had a fist bump moment. Really, like, Power of Love started playing. I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. And that's kind of my thoughts and feelings about this. Now, what do you guys think will be in the adaptation? What do you think is going to be expanded upon? Because when it comes to TV shows, they're pretty much like the way we look at movie book adaptations is, you can't fit everything. Now you have like 8 or 9 hours to fill one book. What do you think is going to be changing? What do you think is going to be expanded upon? Because you can't just have one chapter as an episode, because that would not work. It's probably going to be a couple of them. B, what do you think is going to be changing? What do you think is going to be expanding?
It's really hard to like pinpoint what I think they're going to change and expand. I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting to see just a little bit more of Percy's life before he goes to Camp Half-Blood, sort of like get more, I don't know, context of what that's like. Because you get a little bit of like a briefing, I guess, but in The Lightning Thief, you just kind of go right from there to camp. I don't know, just like a little like more grounding scenes like that would be interesting. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna cut. You kind of like, you can't ever guess those things because I think it's just sort of up to the discretion of a lot of different people whether they decide that's important. Trying to think of like specific things that they would expand, and I don't even really know what that would entail. I guess just in general, like expanding, like I said, like setting type things, like, oh, this is what it's like to be at Camp Half-Blood, like little detail things about what it's like to live there, if that makes sense. I like those aspects of TV shows where you get sort of like a less action-packed episode, so to speak. So I don't know, maybe if they like spaced it out differently. I'm interested to know how many episodes the first season is going to be.
Because I know I have an idea about like what things should probably be taken out, which are like in the books there are so many like little monster encounters, and it's there to like teach about mythology and all of that kind of stuff, and so there's a reason for it being there. But when you're trying to like streamline a story into a TV or any kind of writing thing, so many of those little distractions can be that it can be distracting. So I feel like there's probably going to be some of those encounters taken out. Like for example, like the mattress store in the first book, like that's going to be taken out.
No, that was a moment that was taken out of like all the adaptations. And, like, they also took out the fact that, like, Percy pulled a gun on someone. Like, just, like, everywhere. Like, yeah. I could not find it.
And then, but, like, what I'm excited about is all of the little stuff. Bringing it, like, the biggest one for me, and this sounds so weird, but, like, the iris messaging. That's what I'm excited to see. Like just the little things, like and the little like world building things really make a difference. And yeah, that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, it's hard to say like what will stay because you want everything to stay, but that's not realistic. Like Braden was saying, you got to take some things out to streamline it and make it fit into like I don't know. I'm assuming they'll probably do 30-minute episodes, but maybe not.
Probably be like 45 minutes at most. I'm going off like Mandalorian.
It'd probably be shorter maybe because they'll probably be doing it for kids. Most of the Disney kid shows are like 35 minutes max.
My bet is like 24 minutes because that's like usually the half hour like length, taking out like commercials.
I suppose with it on Disney Plus, it won't have commercials, so they'll probably put it about half hour.
Yeah. But what was I watching where that had that length? It was like the perfect length. I don't know if it was on Disney Plus. Dairy Girls on Netflix. I was watching that.
Oh yeah, that's a Channel 4 British show.
Yeah, hilarious. But so it's on Netflix, and all the episodes are 24-ish minutes, and it's like just the perfect length for me, at least. I don't know about anyone else, but it's like perfect. It's very short, it kind of like
for something that's faster pace, especially. It works. So I think maybe for a kids program it might work. I don't know, because again, I keep thinking of like the Unfortunate Events Netflix adaptation, which was totally different. They were like, let's do a mini movie for each book.
It was a little too long because after like I was like, looking at the bad beginning. Oh, thank God, we're almost. Oh God, no, I got like 7 more episodes to this.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it too.
As for like what I want to see expanded, I want to see more of like Percy and Grover's friendship expanded because it's such a big part of the books, and like that friendship is so important to him. And I feel like in the movie, we just kind of got like, oh, Grover's this cool, like, lady magnet or whatever that term is. And Percy's just like, yeah, man, you're cool. I want to see development, my friends.
Something just came to me. If I can add something in.
Yeah.
I want to see flashbacks of Annabeth, Luke, and... is this a spoiler? I don't know. Can I say this?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the flashbacks of
I think
Annabeth,
so, right?
Luke, and Talia. Like, I want to see those along like the Lightning Thief chapter and maybe the Sea of Monster chapter. However, they're gonna split the books apart. I want to see those. Okay, now I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, minor things that I want to stay. I was just on YouTube earlier and I saw that. I didn't know this until today, that one of the deleted scenes from the movie was Annabeth's like iconic line, "You drool when you sleep." And that's definitely something I would like to actually stay in the context of the show. Some things that I think that, could be different or expanded upon. I really, really hope that they don't. Like, this is a common problem I always remember you and B talking about when you were reading the earlier books. Good old Interruptus. I kind of wish they would tone that down a little bit and maybe not necessarily explain more plot points in that moment, but also not just be like, oh, we're explaining something and pause. We got to go back to the monster we're fighting or whatever. You'll find out about this plot point next time on Percy Jackson Z. I don't know.
Sometimes Percy Jackson just is that interrupting cow joke, just as a book.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think for me, some of the points that I am interested in, you guys have talked about before. I think the big thing that I kind of want expanded on is character relationships, especially for me, Percy and Luke, like mainly in the Lightning Thief, because I think the issue that I've often had with the Lightning Thief is that, in the prophecy line that you'll be betrayed by the one you call friend. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, they don't really have like any friendship.
Vague acquaintance.
It's like, make them friends or something. So, like,
betrayed by the camp counselor, you sort of know.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the idea of them being more friendly makes the betrayal like even more devastating, and that rivalry later on all the more interesting. And just shameless self-promotion, on my YouTube channel, A Healthy Dose of Fran, I did like a live stream talking about all these different things, and I think the other one that I like almost desperately want is an exploration of mental health, because all these kids have like a mental health illness. Like Percy basically has technically like PTSD with like his nightmares with Mrs. Dodds at the start of the book, the experiences he has later on, Annabeth being from quite a traumatic childhood, having run away as like a young child. And while the books do kind of address them, I think it'd be really interesting if it's not like given like a PSA sort of moment in the series, but for it to be addressed a little bit more to kind of teach younger audiences about mental health and kind of normalize it so people feel more comfortable talking about it. Because like someone could be like, oh my gosh, Percy has like anxiety or something, and I'm recognizing this in myself and being comfortable talking about it. So I think it'd be an interesting way for the show to have a benefit to the watchers in multiple different ways other than just enjoyment and seeing a series that you loved as a kid or as an adult coming to life. I got deep, guys. Sorry. It's like miniature silence.
How do I follow that?
So like little silence, and there's me just like, oh my god, I've gone deep. I've frightened everyone to being like, oh my god,
Too deep.
do now.
No, but Zach and I talk about that a good amount, actually. It's kind of interesting because they'll like be really specific about the ADHD and dyslexia stuff, and then other like disabilities and things like that are sometimes more metaphor or like implied. But I mean, every camper is traumatized, so there's something going on with all of them, basically.
There needs to be like an on-site therapist, but even them would just be like,
No, they just have Mr. D.
Yeah, Mr. D doesn't do a very good job at that.
Mr. D, I think, would be really interesting because, like, he's got the power of he can do like insanity stuff. So he can maybe he has like a reverse thing, so he can help people feel more relaxed or something during like a panic attack or something.
No.
But yeah, maybe like book 4, Mr. D would be more like that. I feel.
Isn't that what he's doing like in the very beginning? Because is it Selena who like runs in and is like crying about something?
That's
or
in
a
the
different
musical. That's in the musical.
That's just in the musical? Okay, see, I'm having false memories.
Doesn't Mr. D
I can't see the musical. I'm in Britain.
Doesn't Mr. D
I'm
help
so
Chris
upset.
Rodriguez?
I don't think it's helping Fran that to tell her, oh yeah, the musical's great. You know that musical you can't see.
That's over.
Something kind of silly I want to see expanded upon is the climbing wall, because that is often discussed in the books, but we don't ever really get a specific scene about it. So I think, even if it's just included in sort of like a training montage, I feel like just seeing more of the climbing wall would be a nice thing.
For some reason, Make a Man Out of You from Mulan just started playing in my head.
Are there really no parts of the books that are about, take place on the climbing wall? Okay.
No, they already do it in the movie.
He mentions it in retrospect.
They do it in the movie.
Like, he says that his shoes were burned, but he never actually is on the wall.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the one credit I give to the Sea of Monsters movie, is that they do include the wall.
Not lava, though.
It's not great.
Yeah.
But no, it's not lava. It's not great, but it's there.
Black.
That's the only credit.
I mean, it exists.
And get off my roof.
So, Diego, what are your thoughts?
I have a couple of thoughts here. One, we have the problem of modernization. I don't know when these books were written, because they were written before I was born, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, God.
Oh my god, I'm 1,000 years old.
I think...
I'm the crypt keeper.
2005.
At least I was
Saying.
born before the lightning
Oh,
thief.
no.
Back then, people had, like, flip phones and, like, those things with keyboards on them.
Oh my god.
Like, I'm not
He's
sure.
doing this on purpose at this point.
I'm not sure what those are.
We're barely in our 20s.
The Santa Claus growing a beard .gif.
Diego, for posterity's sake, I think Percy Jackson takes place, the first one, 2005, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, 2005. So, like, in 2005, people were, like,
I'd
on
love
the
to hear your opinion.
interweb and, like, flipping phones and, like, stuff like that, right?
MySpace.
And, like, credit cards weren't a thing back then.
But if you think about it, though, sorry, gonna cut in here. Percy Jackson inherently has it written in to like be timeless because the demigods can't use technology, so you can't have technology dating
true.
them.
No,
No
they
phones.
can use technology. They can't
or like
use
the
phones.
internet or anything, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise monsters will find them. So like they can use.
Yeah, I think internet,
Yeah,
and phone,
but we
which
still
like
have,
rules
like-
out a lot of that kind of stuff. But there is a little bit of, and there's like
Yeah,
references, like
Yeah.
Hillary Duff.
Hillary
My
Duff
queen.
in Green Day and
timeless.
stuff.
My queen.
Don't you?
No,
dare.
I'm no shade on Hillary Duff. Listen, I listened to So Yesterday plenty of times
I just
in my
wa-
bedroom.
I just
We've
watched
all
the
been
Lizzie
there.
McGuire movie like last week.
Bro,
I made my dad go to that when I was.
love it so much.
that movie is
I
legendary.
watched the Lizzie McGuire movie and then
Beautiful,
one of
10 out
the
of
Kate
10.
and Ashley movies. I don't
American
remember which
Ashley,
one.
go to Australia, become private detectives.
No, I watched.
My
watched the
favorite
ones
one-
that was at
My favorite one of the
Atlantis.
Mary Kate and Ashley's is where they go to France and they go into the Louvre, but because you can't film in the Louvre, there's just sort of this weird PowerPoint presentation of like sort of clip art of paintings flying past them. Anyway, that's a sidebar.
Let me go back to my tangent, okay? Ready? So then it's not that they have to like put iPhones into it. It's just the kid culture back then was like so different. Like in the museum scene, they're gonna have to do like a scene in which they're just girls in the corner just like doing a TikTok in front of like a statue or something, right? There's
As
gonna
if
have
they
to be,
wouldn't
like,
get yelled at though.
modern-
My teachers would have murdered me.
There has to be like modernization because like some of the slang is like off and stuff, and like of course the references that like are a little bit outdated, but like you can leave those in for the nostalgia or whatever. But like the overall culture of like the kids has to be different because like phones are such a big part of their life before they went to Camp Half-Blood, right? Because all of them like have that experience. All of them are normal, like what? Well, not normal, but they're like 12-year-old kids who go to middle school, which means that they have some sort of like experience with the world. And like of course, yeah, you can like not have any technology in it, but it's not really the technology specifically. It's the way that the technology influences
Like the
people.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the children. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
people are still going to be doing like dumb, like TikTok challenges, even if they don't have phones. They're just gonna be like, oh, for sure.
Yeah,
It just I always like being reminded that humans, for as long as they've existed, have been dumb. Like when they're like these ancient hieroglyphics, we must translate them. They are the wisdom of our ancestors, and it just turns out to be
But
like
Henry was here.
Henry was here.
yeah, there's a lot of like stuff like that that's literally people are kind of always the same.
So, like for me, when it comes to like adaptations, especially what comes in, what comes out, it's hard to really gauge it because a lot of it has to do with budget restraints. Like I'm talking about this, putting my producer hat on. Like there's some of the coolest elements I'd love to see, but for me, I think the one thing I hope that stays in there is the core aspect of the book, which is kind of the road trip. Whereas you go on this cross country Americana road trip, and you're going to a lot of like national monuments and stuff. Obviously, now that we have, basing off of Disney Plus, we have the ability with The Mandalorian to use like LED screens to actually pretty much digitally project a lot of things. That I'm really excited to see that. And kind of like the one thing that I'm really excited that we've kind of gone away from is the Harry Potter whimsical of meeting Hogwarts for the first time, which is something that hasn't been really shown in films recently. So I'm excited to see like their interpretation of what Camp Half-Blood looks like, because in the movie, it's just Hogwarts, but like a summer camp. Whereas
It's kind of more disappointing than
It's a little more
You think
disappointing.
about the Hogwarts scene, right, in the Harry Potter movies, and I'm not even like a fan of those books the way that people are Potterheads, but I still find that more emotionally evocative. You're like, oh, this mist, and they're on the boats and everything.
yeah, no, it's a
Like,
great scene.
Can you think of the scene where you see Camp Half-Blood? They're just sort of there, and it's like a camp.
Well,
It just
there-
looks like a camp.
Well, it's sort of like the way I would probably imagine is Percy gets out of like the little hovel that he's in, and it just the sweeping shot of just seeing the whole place and seeing campers doing camper things that are over the top, like the volcano wall, or you see Pegasi, or you see things that really kind of emphasize that. But at the same time, I'm really excited to see all the set design because you have this Americana but Greek flavor to it at the same time. So that's what I'm really, really looking forward to. Hopefully that gets expanded upon a little more because you have things like Riptide, but it's also a pen. But also at the same time, you have like it's a summer camp, so there's like the Greek interpretation with the Americana feel to it, and that's going to be one of the hardest things, especially with the one thing I hope that stays in is kind of like things in the books that we've talked about. Is like one of them is like the relationship between Luke and Percy and kind of like the uneven unfairness of people in the Hermes cabin and how they're not claimed because that's something that happens near the end of the book, but they should kind of already start alluding to the unfairness a little bit. But also at the same
right,
time,
because also if you're making an adaptation, the one benefit you have is
time.
hindsight and awareness of how everything's going to end up. I mean, we've talked about how Rick Riordan is probably mostly a plotter, like he had a general idea of where things were going to go, but now he actually knows how the story goes, so you could like plant more foreshadowing kind of stuff earlier on.
So Rick Riordan can plant a lot of seeds, and I think that's such a great thing to do, especially when it comes to him outlining, is he can actually start outlining these things. But one of the things that I think should always kind of stay here is, and actually kind of be expanded upon, is how Sally is a really great mom, even though she's in a terrible situation. Like they shouldn't brush past that, whereas like in the movies, kind of just a jerk.
So I'm interested also like how Sally is gonna be, because like if you think about the medium of like a book and a musical versus a TV show, whereas a musical and a book you can kind of get into the inner thoughts of a character, and that can explain a lot of things such as character, and it tells us that she's a good mom. Whereas on a movie or a TV show, since it's so visual, and the amount of time that Sally's in the first book, it's going to be very difficult to show how good of a mom she is. I can see, so I'm interested to see how they're going to do that.
I feel like when you're in a visual medium, you can show things like affection much more different than writing about it. Like, you can have things like, she stays with Percy and, like, wipes his hair or does some, like, motherly things that you can do that are affectionate. Like, there's a lot of things that are lost on the page because people are reading so fast. They're looking at dialogue rather than dialogue plus pure action at times. So that can help. And it's like that weird type of like scale. Like, what is good? Like, oh, Percy, I've loved you since I was little, and I don't know who your dad is, but we're not going to allude to it, but I love you and here's some blue food, rather than in the book they can kind of like have the inner thoughts and workings of Percy filling in the blanks rather than being a mind reader. So, guys, the next question I'm going to propose is, with Rick being involved, what does the adaptation mean to long-lasting Percy Jackson fans?
So I'm the first person to answer this, which is, am I a long-lasting Percy Jackson fan? It's like hard to say. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm definitely, in the grand scheme of things, a more recent Percy Jackson fan, but in a weird way, I read the books in such an immersive, intense way of analyzing a chapter a week for 2 years. I think that it's usually a good thing to involve an author in adaptations. It doesn't always work. I know plenty of examples of having authors be on set for adaptations and then, for whatever reason they get cut, or they're, not always making additions to the screenplay. There's a lot of things that can change. But I hope that Rick stays on with the project I think, if anything, not necessarily like keep everything canonically the same as far as like the bullet points of what happens, but more just keep the spirit. And that's kind of the important aspect of the author, is they have a better understanding of what the feeling of Percy Jackson is, of what that setting is like, what these characters are, and as long as that remains consistent and true to itself, it's less important what they keep and what they change and what they expand or whatever, even though obviously I have opinions about that, but that's kind of where I'm at. I feel just a sense of comfort that even if maybe my favorite scene, it doesn't go exactly as planned in the adaptation, it will still feel like Percy Jackson, quote unquote.
One thing that I'm really excited for with Rick being involved in the TV show, and I've kind of talked a little bit about this before, about why I love Percy Jackson so much, which is and this is also coming from, I know I'm an educator as well, It's a series that is targeted towards a younger audience, but it doesn't stoop down to a younger. It's not like they're gonna shade some other book series here, but like Diary of a Wimpy Kid or like Captain Underpants, where it's very like they stoop down to a almost kind of a level that is a little kind of disrespectful of the intelligence and the integrity of that demographic. So I'm really excited to see the kind of the TV show is still going to be most likely aimed for that demographic, but it's still going to have a sense of like sophistication that the books have, and that sense of respect for its demographic.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Braden and Bryce just said. I actually have had that same conversation with my parents about like kids series that are like make kids like their humor and their storytelling treats kids like they're stupid instead of raising kids up to another level of yes, they're capable of understanding things. They love adventures. They want and need to see characters who are powerful and, you know, like Percy and everybody else in the Percy Jackson series, like, overcomes amazing things. It's like, you see things like that, and it's like, yeah, I'm just a kid, but I can do those things too. Hopefully nobody's having to, like, slay monsters when they're 12, but you know what I mean? So, yeah, like Bryce was saying, just hopefully keeping to that level of staying true to the story itself and not just making it a gross, like, quote-unquote adaptation that doesn't even need to be called Percy Jackson.
For me, thinking about Rick being involved, thinking about how long the fight has been on, I use fight like it's some kind of like Rocky Balboa kind of thing, but knowing how long he's fought for us, the hardcore fans, the long-lasting fans, to even get Disney to acknowledge him was a huge fight. And to sort of be on the other side of like, yeah, we won. Eventually we're going to get the show. Not now, because, I mean, with everything that's going around with Corona, there's not going to be any casting. There's not going to be any shooting or anything for quite a while.
It's a real monkey's paw situation, honestly. It's like, oh, you'll get a Percy Jackson show eventually.
Eventually. As a long-term Percy Jackson fan, knowing that the quote-unquote next generation is gonna get sort of the same feeling I got, but better, because they're gonna get a show, makes me feel, you know, pretty happy, pretty ecstatic that it's gonna happen.
I think for me, so I came into Percy Jackson when I was 19. It's not as big here in the UK, which sucks for me to not really have anyone to talk to about the series except for people over in the US, which is great until it's midnight and we're still talking and I've got work in the morning. But with Rick being involved, I think what's important about his involvement is that I feel with him being involved, and from the looks of it, so much so that he has not creative control but enough input to have an impact. It means that in comparison to the films that we originally have, the characters and the story are going to be worthy of the books in terms of an adaptation. It's going to have the same heart. It's going to have the same importance to people who are neurodivergent, kids from difficult backgrounds, and things like that, who are going to see themselves in this show and identify with it and fall in love with the show themselves. And maybe this show with this heart will lead to more people reading the books. And even though the abomination of the film is that an abomination, I'm kind of thankful to it, because that was what introduced me to the books. It was on in the background one day. I thought it was terrible even then, but I saw that it was based on a book. So I went and bought the books and read all 5 in 2 days. So I'm grateful to that. So I'm hoping that with this adaptation and for us long-lasting fans, we will be able to see a new generation of Percy Jackson fans because of this TV show, because they're both fans of the show and then they go on to find the books.
So I think with Rick being involved, and this kind of also talks about like our previous question, I think this also means that less scenes will be sort of cut out, or characters or personalities will be cut out, because Rick kind of has probably has an attachment to the stuff that he kind of created 15 years ago. So I think that will definitely sort of influence how similar the story is to the books. And yeah, so I think that overall it's just going to make sure that we're getting a faithful adaptation, even like along the sort of smaller things that don't necessarily need to be there. I think the fact that Rick has, sort of this, he's like already written it, he's probably going to not be editing as much this time around.
I agree with that in a sense. I just think it's especially important when you're doing something the second time around to get it right. I mean, he didn't really do it the first time. It was somebody else who kind of messed it up for him. But if you have something that the fans didn't like, right? And then you're trying to make up for it, it kind of puts a lot more pressure on you than if this is the first time you're doing it. And I think that makes it even more important for Rick to be behind it, because you need that input from the author that wasn't there the first time around. Get it right the second time. If that makes any sense, kind of. And I just think it's nice for him to finally, have a say in something. Like back when Fox made the first films, he was just kind of like a teacher, but now his fan base has very literally hassled Disney into making a show for him. So I think he has a lot more power now, kind of. He can actually get something done.
So when it comes to me, what I'm going to say about Rick Riordan, I have to look at, ironically, today is the 1-year anniversary of when Game of Thrones ended, and how much of an abysmal train wreck that was, and kind of showing the power that an author has, because George R. R. Martin, when he was making A Song in Ice and Fire, he wanted to have control over it, and they had control of it until it diverged from the books, and then he didn't know really what to do because his books were different from the show. And we're getting that a little bit here. A lot of authors now have been reading about how they have this thing called the creative clause in their contracts, where they have not final say for everything, but they are the voice of if they need to make a continuity thing, or they need to make something that changes the plot, the author has to get the approval of it. And one of the most important things that I think Rick Riordan's kind of is our voice of the community is because, for one thing, if there's a character or someone that okay, they behave this way, maybe, they're neurodivergent, maybe, they're gay or something, and one author or one writer's we want to change it this, Rick Riordan has power to say, no, you don't. It's my character, and we're going to keep it this way because it's important to this and to kind of show diversity in many different ways that's appropriate. Because the one thing I'll say about Rick Riordan's series is that diversity, evolves throughout all the books, and also at the same time, it's really important to a lot of people, and Rick kind of really does acknowledge that a lot. So that's the one thing I'm really excited about having Rick here, is that he's the person that will be up for bat when it comes to adaptations, oh, we're gonna have a character named Alex, we're gonna change him this way, and he's gonna be no, you're not, this is my character, and we're gonna keep them the way they are because they're perfect the way they are. You don't have to change anything, and I will kind of help you guys assist in writing this person, or I'll help assist in writing this person, or what are the thoughts and feelings of this character. Well, I'm pretty much equivalent to the voice of gods at this point. Please, let's work together and figure this out. And I think that's the one thing that hopefully Disney is looking at here, unlike Star Wars, where they kicked George Lucas out of the writing room and a lot of other things with their writing groups. And I'm interested to see kind of when it comes to Percy Jackson, how Rick Riordan has control over certain things, as well as, he's already seen what happens when you don't have a good series. Now, what happens when you have all these people that actually care about the property and want to make something great, as we saw with Series of Unfortunate Events. A lot of those people, the main showrunner was Barry Sonnenfeld, who wanted to make Series of Unfortunate Events from the beginning, and they gave it to another person because I think he left and all the writers had been fans at most of them. Some of them had very much like Series of Unfortunate Events personalities, and you watch that series, and it feels like the Series of Unfortunate Events we should get. Whereas now we have a Disney adaptation, this Disney Plus show, where they can do pretty much anything, because we're still in the renaissance of like streaming shows where they could make things, they could change things, but at the end of the day, just because you can, Rick Riordan will be, should we? I think that's kind of the important topic that I wanted to kind of get across here.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm just saying, like, with all this power that Rick has now that you, Zach, and Diego have kind of touched on, and this sort of evolution from the movies to now, Rick Riordan is basically Walter White in his power when it comes to making adaptations.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see what can happen when the author has a dedicated fan base that wants to see something great happen, like a dedicated company that wants something great to happen so that they can make lots of monies off of it. And when the author has like as much power as he does right now, and it's really exciting to kind of be at this point in which all these things that would be like, oh, this is the ideal scenario, have for some magical reason converged, and it's gonna happen.
Without fan casting, what sort of cast do you want to see? How diverse? How should they be presented in this new adaptation?
So I was just talking about diversity on Twitter, and I think Rick Riordan would agree that in his books and probably in adaptations of his books, he would want diversity. I really honestly appreciated the approach that the musical had, in that it was like very race blind. Like Percy's mom was cast as a Black woman, and there wasn't kind of any question as to why that was. I see that kind of happening more in adaptations of things where it's not really presuming any kind of like race or look to any character, and I kind of like that. And I mean, if it's going to be based in our world, it's going to be diverse, so that makes sense to me. Beyond that, it would just be really cool if there was just like a diversity of not just, people from different backgrounds, but if they cast trans people, if they cast people with disabilities, that would be particularly resonant, considering the fact that the book series focuses so much on people with ADHD and dyslexia. If we had actors who even, had those sort of experiences, that would be really cool. I'm less married to really, really specific aesthetics, other than, I guess, as far as they like represent metaphorical stuff, like Percy makes sense that he has blue eyes, or like it's like a blue-green eyes, right? It's something like that, because it's like I care about those details as far as they like represent certain things about the character, but other than that, I'm not like, I think it's really weird when people get upset when characters are a different race than they imagine. I remember the controversy that happened with the Hunger Games and people being weird about Rue being Black, despite the fact that she was sort of described that way in the books, and that makes me really uncomfortable. I hope that we've moved beyond that kind of discourse in the YA community since then. People are just very strange about that. But, I hope that they cast diversely, and I hope that they cast somewhat young, to be honest. They probably have to, because it's a TV show, and they're sort of racing against the clock. And I know that there is a tendency to sometimes cast older because of various labor laws or whatever. But at the same time, it's more believable and I think immersive when you have like somewhat young characters playing like 12-year-olds or whatever. Like I think about the movies, and I think even Rick Riordan had a complaint about that because they were aged up, it sort of changed the tone a lot. It made them a little bit more, I guess, like cool and hot, and like they're teens who are, it just has like a different energy than like dorky tweens, and it doesn't sell what the story is as well, or it's not as believable. So I guess those are like the two things I'm focused on. Is I hope that they cast diversely in various ways, but I also hope that they maybe don't, cast 30-year-olds.
I think it would be a really great way, because this is a tactic that a lot of places have started using as a way to marketing their shows and their plays and whatever, is doing some kind of online or in-person casting call for the main three. I think that's going to probably be where the new talent is the main three. And then in terms of all of the other characters, maybe a couple of the campers are not like this, but it's going to be people who are probably like established but not well known at all. Maybe there could be like maybe one or two like popular names amongst the whole series, but at the same time, like, this is a streaming service with a limited budget, and like, it's not. I see a lot of Dreamcasts where it's like all of these A-lists, and while that's an amazing thought, it's probably not going to happen with a Disney Plus show. Also this should be established right now, even though this should be a no big deal and should be something that we have learned already. But let's up the diversity, please. Let's do that. Thank you. Okay.
I also was thinking about the casting of Hermione and the Cursed Child and how people freaked out about it. It's like it does not matter. And like in Hamilton, they cast George Washington as a black man, and some people freaked out about that because, like, oh, it's George Washington. And I'm like, but that shouldn't be nearly as important as their ability to play the part and embody the character.
It's also like, it just feels very silly in something like Percy Jackson that's so magic, like fabulism happening there. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's urban fantasy like that. It's so ridiculous to be like, I believe that they're demigods, but I draw the line at his mom being black. Like, that's totally bonkers.
It's like that meme from Community. I can understand that they're...
I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty. You draw the line?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, as long as like they cast, Percy and Annabeth and like the main characters as age-appropriate actors who can embody the characters, I think I'll be happy. And I would love to see, as much diversity as possible in every way. Like, I saw fan cast the other day that was like 99% old white people, and I was like, dude, no. There's more than old people.
The worst is like fan casts that are like pictures of actors who definitely, like, they're too old in the headshot that they posted, but also they've since aged like 10 years, and you're like, that they are almost 40. How could what are you doing?
They are at the end of their lives, and you want to cast them as children.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not gonna be super picky about it, and I just want them to be age appropriate, diverse, and embody the character well, and then I'll be happy. Also, though, okay, in my head, in my personal headcanon, Percy is always Latino, so...
It would be great for us Hispanics if, like, at a monster, he just starts, like, cursing him out in Spanish. But, what's it called? For me, casting, a lot of it doesn't matter for me, like, oh, who's like the cool young actors and actresses who are being casted for these roles. It doesn't particularly matter to me. It doesn't particularly matter to me, like their skin tone or anything like that. What matters to me is that the second I see that character on screen, I want to be able to tell myself, oh, that's Percy. Oh, that's Annabeth. Oh, that's, Sally. And I don't want the movie, or not the movie, the TV show to tell me, oh, hi, I'm Percy Jackson. I want them to just walk on stage and I can be like, oh, that's Percy. Like, as much as we give the Lightning Thief movie a bit of a run for its money and make fun of it all the time, Logan Lerman, like, that's how you pronounce his name, right?
Sure.
Who cares?
My sis doppelganger.
Who cares? But I mean, he would have been a great Percy if, like, he was playing the 16-year-old Percy from, like, the 5th book. I agree with everyone who's on Twitter who's like, we want a diverse cast in terms of, different ethnicities. That'd be pretty cool to see. Percy as a Hispanic man would be pretty cool. That would be awesome to see. Personally, I guess the only person who I want to see as a white person would be Hades, only because I want him to be cast by like one of the crazy, not Hades, Dionysus. There we go, Dionysus. I want him to be cast by like either Danny DeVito. That's a popular meme going around right now. Danny DeVito is Dionysus, or I don't know who's a crazy.
The D
actor.
stands for Danny DeVito.
Just the first scene he's in, and then I started blasting. But yeah, I think the only person I can really see in my mind being definitively cast as like a cis old white dude would be Dionysus, mainly for the joke of haha, he's like one of those mess of a cis old white dude.
Don't forget Gabe though.
Okay, Gabe is a special exception. Like
Gabe definitely
the most like.
Yeah, Gabe can be.
We need to get like the most
person you ever saw for all I care.
Yeah, exactly. But wait, you cannot give that role to Danny DeVito. I respect that man too much. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay, cool. I suppose kind of going off of you guys' points. Again, I'm not too fussed. Like I really do want diversity in this casting, and so many people admittedly have brought up that they're worried because it's Disney Plus that there won't be diversity, which I'm kind of surprised by, because lots of, especially Disney Plus and like Disney Channel, lots of their TV shows have been really diverse. Like there's Diary from a Future President, which is all about a Latin American young girl wanting to grow up to be president of the United States. So good. Which I think is like, some people are kind of bringing up the films, like the Disney films, as reasons as to why they're concerned about diversity, because they'll be like, the whole Beauty and the Beast controversy of like, yeah, we have a gay character, but he's there for like 3 seconds. You'll miss him if you're not paying attention, but he's there. So people have been bringing up examples of that. But all I can think is, this is going to be a TV show, and so many of the TV shows, like Andy Mack, I think is the best example I can think of recent TV shows. It dealt with Andy realizing that her sister is actually her biological mother, and that relationship change. It's a mixed race family with Chinese Americans mixed with the white ethnicity, and there's like an episode on Chinese New Year and stuff like that. So I think the concerns for diversity, while totally valid, I think with it being a TV show, and again with Rick being involved, there's not too much to worry about in terms of then being no diversity.
I agree yet disagree just a little bit, because it is true that Disney maybe doesn't have the best track record with LGBT representation specifically, or maybe not even. It's strange because they may not even have to have that representation, but they bring it up sort of. They want they're like, hey, queers out there, you'll give us $1 because we told you that there's one of you in this Marvel property, and it's like, actually, no, I won't. But the complicated thing though is like Percy Jackson, the series we're talking about doesn't have any representation in that way. It'd be interesting if they added it, but again, like there is opportunity to have that kind of diversity without changing any plot points. Like they could hire trans actors and not be like, and here's Beckendorf, who's trans now. Like they could just cast a trans actor, because the excuse is always like, oh well, if we make a movie like that, it won't play in this homophobic country, it'll be whatever. Like, and those are kind of like mealy-mouthed excuses in my opinion a lot of the time, because it's like, okay, but you could still air it here and then like edit it for that. But yeah,
no, I admittedly, I 100% get the concerns. I think for me it's more just knowing the Disney Plus shows and the Disney Channel shows, and the fact that they did have their first queer character on Andy Mack as well, actually, a character called forgotten his name now completely, even though I just watched the show the other day.
Yeah, I hope that is what happens, like that Rick is sort of this steadfast guy, because that is what he's sort of presented himself as, with the Rick Riordan Presents, like platforming other like people who are marginalized voices from various cultures, like being very defensive of like trans people on Twitter and saying like, boo-hoo, I'm sorry that you're sad about my like gender fluid character, but too bad, so sad. I think that exists in real life and therefore it exists in my stories. I mean, I know I keep comparing the unfortunate events thing, but it is sort of like the Daniel Handler approach where I think in some ways he wanted to even amend some of the lack of representation or like the maybe misguided representation that existed in the book version of the story and sort of amended that in a little bit more of a thoughtful way, like in the example of the person of indeterminate gender, like made them less of like a horrible sort of stereotype or like weird monstrous creature and more of a human being and a character. And I hope that kind of thing is able to happen because it's on a streaming service and they have a little bit more freedom, and hopefully Rick is the kind of advocate who'll go, no, that's not cool, you can't get rid of this for whatever reason.
No, definitely. And I think that's just, the whole thing is that it's definitely a valid concern, but I think my thing is I just want to let people know that Disney Plus and Disney Channel seems to be doing better in terms of representation. And I definitely think Percy Jackson is the place where they will be able to bring in diversity and variation for characters so all audiences can feel seen. And I think Rick is definitely going to be like a big advocate for that. Yeah, no, I remember reading that. I've got to say, I don't know if they're going to be specifically involved with casting, but Rick posted today, so on Tuesday, something to do with casting on his Instagram about I'll see if I can read it. So it looks like they may possibly be involved in that. There may be a casting call, so possibly an open casting call as well. Which is mainly for the main characters, it seems also. So looks like some of us are actually correct. Bro, literally, I want to go for a role as the confused British demigod in the background, and all you can just hear, one line just from me is, what do you mean there's no National Health Service?
So, cameo-wise, I've thought about this a lot, and I was thinking about the scene in the creek during Capture the Flag, and I was thinking like I'd be like I'd be really good at being one of the Ares campers who gets like destroyed by Percy when he's in the water. But like the thing, like if they want to actually get me, because I'm such, a high mark, if they really want to get me in this thing, they have to give me a single line. So I'm thinking like when Percy slams me into the water, I should be like an oh, and then all the listeners of the podcast went, oh my gosh, that's Samuel. I recognize his sound of distress. So that's my cameo role. That's definitely happening.
What if I just showed up auditioning for Percy? I just want people to be like, wow, Percy's so much shorter than I pictured and so much weaker looking.
True.
Oh my god.
Did you guys see the tweet that Rick Riordan had recently that says, now I can't stop thinking about a series with age-appropriate main characters, but every single extra is an older fan. Chiron, welcome to Camp Half-Blood, young Percy. Percy, why is everybody else here in their late 20s and why are they all grinning at me?
If I were to get casted as like any kind of cameo role and the first thing they tell me is just act normal, just act like you normally do, I'll be like, what the heck does that mean?
Cast me as Queen Sally.
What do you mean norm? You're asking me to act normal and you're asking me to act like myself. Those are two different things.
I'm a normal adult human and I am not at all excited to see this happening.
Yeah, so about the casting, everybody has really iterated the diversity thing, so I don't think I need to, talk about any more about that. But I agree with what you're all saying. About like A-listers in the cast, the only person I think would kind of be nice to have sort of a more well-known actor would be Poseidon, because that's just something I kind of feel would be interesting to have sort of a better and more well-versed actor sort of taking on that father dynamic of Poseidon. Otherwise, I feel everyone basically could be new talent, as long as they definitely do sort of embody the characters from the books. And as for of course the main trio, they should all be, if not 12, I think they might even, want to be younger, like they did in Harry Potter.
I can see that, and it makes sense as well in terms of like when they're growing, in terms of like puberty and stuff, so they don't like. Just imagine Percy's voice. Like, I think you talked about it a lot in the show, Zach. Like Percy's pre-pubescent voice.
Oh no, I'm not gonna do it because we get emails about it. But like, hey, hi guys.
People hate it so much.
people-
Well, the thing is, though, I'm becoming that because I'm on testosterone, so I'm just producing those sounds naturally.
Yeah, there's some. It's like the squeaky faced, like the squeaky voiced teen from The Simpsons. But it's like, hey, hi guys, how you guys? Oh man, my voice dropped.
No,
Hey.
that's happening. I'm headed in that direction.
So Diego, what about you?
All right, so for me, clearly, I have like a little couple things about casting. Of course, diversity is important. But these people must also be funny. Like, they must just be like naturally funny. Like, I gotta like look at them, and then I just gotta like laugh inside a little bit, right? Or like I gotta look at them and like what Robert was saying. Like, I gotta look at them, and I'm just like, that's Percy or something. Or look at them and be like, oh, dang, this is like really happening or something like that. Also, like, I want like, obviously some diversity. Maybe like Latino Percy would be interesting. But I also want like random bits of like cultural like moments. Like just somebody in the background like doing something that is of just like one specific culture, and it's kind of like a little like a mini cameo for like that culture, and then you can kind of like see it, and then if you are of that culture, you're like, whoa, dude, that makes sense or something. And of course I want the camp to be diverse so that you know that these are people from like all over the US versus like people from Long Island, right?
So for me, when it comes to casting, I'm looking at it as the same ways I'm looking at a lot of other, I want to call them like the passing of the baton, where it's like you hire new people that would be the kids, obviously. Like the one thing I don't like when it comes to fan cast, like, oh, Tom Holland's perfect for everything. I mean, the guy's like my age and can't be a teenager for everywhere. But like when it comes to like what I feel like the A-list celebrities need to be is like the pantheon of gods or all the adults, because adults don't really change. Kids change drastically, especially when it comes to filming. Like, Series of Unfortunate Events is a good example of this, is where they filmed all the seasons as quickly as possible before they all, like, aged up. And by the time they aged up, like, all those kids are now unrecognizable almost. And when it comes to, like, diversity, the way I look at diversity is much like how I love Star Trek, is, like, it should be something that it shouldn't be, like, you just look at, like, oh, yeah, all these kids are who they are. There shouldn't be like, we're just gonna hold this camera for a very long time on this one particular person clickbait article. Like it shouldn't be like that at all. And I think one of the most important things as well is like someone, like, I've got to go to Camp Half-Blood Brooklyn. I've got to actually be a camp counselor, and that is the most beautiful thing to see, is that it's actually very natural for kids to hang out. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter, what diversity, they are, is that when it comes down to it, they're all going to hang out. They're all going to have fun. They're going to look past that. And I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to sing at camp, with like all the people interacting, Percy interacting with all of these people. And also I think when you get from like the real world, I think there should be like this dramatic change of almost like the color palette when it comes to like everything's dark and dreary. But when you get to Camp Half-Blood, that's when the sun comes out and you see like this beautiful world where Percy Jackson's automatically not automatically accepted, but like he's accepted very quickly, and it becomes something that's more interesting. And when you get to the road trip, I'm excited to see how the casting is. Like, are they going to incorporate things for like all the different states to go to, and also that type of stuff. So for me, I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing, but at the same time, I am interested to see who they're going to cast for the certain gods, because, gods are supposed to be this huge, big figure, so it'll be interesting to see who they get specifically for those roles, and how either they're hamming it up or taking it 100% seriously. Which, it's funny because I've been playing a lot of Modern Warfare 2, and the guy that played Poseidon is the voice of the main character in Modern Warfare 2's campaign, and I think that's hilarious to me. So the last question I have for everyone on the panel is, what are some scenes from The Lightning Thief you just cannot wait to see?
I've been thinking about this. I guess a lot of the action-packed scenes will be interesting because I've talked at length on Radio Camp Half-Blood that written action scenes really don't hold my attention. I just find it just mentally really difficult to picture them sometimes, and I don't know if it's not always the fault of the author too, it's just it doesn't really hold my attention. And even as a genre, I don't necessarily find action in TV or movies all that compelling, but within the context of sort of an action adventure YA series, I'm kind of excited to like finally like physically be able to imagine some of these scenes that it gets a little muddled for me, you know, when he's, you know, fighting various monsters in like, I don't know, the like Hoover Dam or something like that. It's like hard for me to really like map out that kind of thing in my mind so specifically that it feels like cinematic and exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's interesting because like in the books I'm more drawn to the like emotional character stuff, and I'm excited about that too because I think really good child actors can bring those to life in a way that'll be really fascinating. But I don't know. In a weird way, I'm looking forward to the action scenes just because I think they'll work better for me as a visual instead of me reading text and being like, "And where is his sword?" I'm my brain, you know. So I hope. I don't know. Or are they gonna keep the gun? I'm fascinated to see if they keep like. That'll be like kind of cool to see how they represent what the mist is. You know what I mean? Like they'll show what Percy sees with his fight with Ares, you know what I mean? And then they'll show these like onlookers being like, he has a gun, like, you know what I mean? The contrast between the reality and the mist.
I have like two scenes that I really want to see. I want to see at least some representation of Percy and Sally like spending quality time together, like in the book when they go to their cabin and they're like sitting on the beach and eating candy, blue candy specifically. And you know, that's when like Grover shows up and the Minotaur and all that good stuff. So I would love to see some development of their relationship because Sally is like a huge part of these books. And in the movie, she was relegated to standing behind an ironing board and being like, I'm just a lady. I'm just gonna stand here and iron things. And it's like, no, she has a real personality, okay?
Oh yeah, who do we want to voice Blackjack?
John Mulaney.
Oh my God, yes, John Mulaney. I'm your horse.
Literally. Oh my God, I've got a meme for that I'm posting soon. You guys are gonna love it.
Yes, I mean it's true, okay? And then the second scene that I really want to see is Percy being claimed by Poseidon because it's such an epic part and it was not done justice. And Chiron was just like, Percy, my boy, you're a son of Poseidon. And I was like, what? So I want to see that part given the justice and like epicness and everything that it means in this, you know? Yeah, those are my two.
Scenes I want to see in The Lightning Thief. There are only two really important scenes to me that when I think about the first book, I was disappointed that I think they were either cut super short or they were made completely wrong in the movie. Scene number one would be I want to see how, like, if you throw Disney money at it, how big of a Lotus Casino and hotel can you make? I would love to see that, especially since it's not going to be like the more like adult themed, you know, sort of like for adults only version they have in the movie. And two, as I said earlier, when I was talking about things that I wanted to stay, I really, really want to see Annabeth, like, you know, Percy waking up in and out of his fight with the Minotaur, and I want to see him wake up once and it's Annabeth with a cloth over his head being like, you drool in your sleep. Like that's I think Annabeth's most iconic line, at least in the original books, because it sort of just sets the path that Percy and Annabeth are going to go on from, kind of enemies to friends to really good friends till eventually they started dating. I think that's a really crucial and important thing that needs to be in the series.
I agree. I think from the scenes that I most want to see, it's probably going to be the most surprising because it's one of the most devastating scenes, and it's the one where Percy makes the decision that he has to leave his mum behind. The reason why for that scene is because it is like the turning point for Percy as a character and as a hero. Like he's hearing his friends decide who's going to stay, who's going to basically like sacrifice themselves, and he realizes that this is the sacrifice that he has to make from the oracle's prophecy, and he knows what he has to do, and it's heartbreaking, and he's devastated, and like he promises to save her, and he promises to help Hades, and I'm like, this was the moment. This was the moment he became the hero, and it's a really important moment, and it shows his growth over the series. And I think the other one is basically just any moment between him and Sally, because not only is Sally an angel from above and deserves all the love and all the respect and the perfect relationship that she has with Paul in the end, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the world. But her and Percy's relationship is like the defining point of his character in The Lightning Thief and just kind of the series as a whole, because he loves his mum and it's the cutest thing in the world. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, so I'm kind of interested in sort of how much they're going to just montage, sort of like they did in the Lightning Thief musical. Side note, I would actually love it if they like sort of had the chords for Drive during some part during the series. But I'm just, how much will sort of, because it, as Zach said sometime in the past 2 hours, they do need to kind of keep the road trip feel. And so how much of that road trip are they sort of going to have in montage that Percy might have skipped over narratively? But like, how much are they going to, go through all the stops that Percy, Annabeth, and Grover went through? So that kind of interests me.
Scenes that I want to see is, of course, the scene where he like pulls a gun on someone, because I feel like that was like very much like not talked about, like at all. He kind of just like whips out a sword and like points it at like the kids and is like go off and do your own things. And I feel like that's a thing that's like, okay, you don't like usually see a 12-year-old, like, yes, he's in like a fragile mental state, but you don't usually see like a 12-year-old like whip out a gun and like tell some kids to scram or something. So I feel like that'll be like an interesting thing in like not only the scene, but also analyzing that scene in retrospect, maybe like Annabeth like lecturing him on that or something. And another scene that I definitely want to see is like the plummet off of the arch, and kind of like maybe like a slow-mo like sequence of thoughts like in his head of what's going on as he's falling to basically his demise until he's like saved at the very end.
So when it comes to scenes I'd love to see from The Lightning Thief, I'm looking at this as both as like thematically, what do we do? Because the first couple Percy Jackson books are not only like almost like mini horror movies at times, but they're also action adventure. And one of my favorite scenes I cannot wait to see is actually the first time Percy meets the Oracle, because that's going to play such a crucial role. And it has like this weird type of mummy wearing like a tie-dye shirt and, spews out green mist. And you see like the prophecies. I'm interested to see like when it comes to the prophecies, what are they going to do and how they're going to incorporate them? Because when it comes to Percy Jackson, that's all by word. You have to remember those prophecies because they come play a part later on. And obviously my favorite scene that I cannot wait to see on screen is the Medusa fight between Percy and Medusa in the Gardenome Emporium, because for me, as much as I want it to look like the Ray Harryhausen stop motion Medusa, I can't wait to see like their interpretation of what they're going to do with the fearsome Gorgon. Though the scenes that I think I'll know that this is going to be a good adaptation. This is how they're going to be handling the intimate scenes. Like, one of my favorite scenes, obviously, it'll be in later on Tyrion's Curse, but when they're all in the car and they're all having their conversations, I'm interested to see when they're in the back, if they do even have the scene, they're in the back of the truck from Vegas with the zebra, having their conversations, and they're having their deep heart-to-hearts. They're talking, and that's kind of like giving all this information about her past. And I'm interested to see like how they're going to touch all like the those little interpersonal scenes with just one-on-one dialogue. That's kind of like what I'm really looking forward to see for the most part. Because action's fun, but I loved always the dialogue in Percy Jackson just because of how true it can get at times. I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming on the panel. Thank you for spending the time. We want to thank our listeners for listening to this, all of our respective listeners from all of our shows. This is a long time coming, and we're happy to actually do something in this vein. Hopefully we can try doing it again. So where can they all find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at bkellygorman, and you can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com.
Yeah, so personally, you can find me, I'm at some Braden stuff on all social media. And then my Percy Jackson podcast, Demipod, is going through a kind of a rebranding right now, but we should have something up by June, and so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, stay tuned. Follow us on social medias for the podcast. That's at Demi Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at floor_600.
You can find me again on Twitter. I run a meme page for the Percy Jackson podcast at the damn meme page. I also have a Twitter for my own podcast, Consult.Oracle. I had to choose between spelling the word the correctly or having the word Oracle fit in my handle, and honestly, was it even worth it?
So you can find my podcast, The Best Damn Camp, on Twitter at Best Damn Camp Pod on Twitter, and the same as well on Instagram.
You can find our podcast, The Half-Blood Report, on your podcasting apps. And Diego and I go over all the Percy Jackson news on that, and we also talk about the Rick Riordan Presents books a lot. Yeah, and we also have a website, thehalfbloodreport.com, and that's kind of all the important stuff.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Half Report or on Instagram at The Half-Blood Report.
If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Suda41, that's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, that's at halfblood_radio. Well, guys, thank you guys so much for coming on to the show. We really, really appreciate it. And this could have been really weird, so everyone bear with us. I'm Zach.
I'm B.
I'm Natalie.
I'm Robert.
I'm Fran.
I'm Samuel.
And I'm Diego.
And keep staying mortal, everybody. See ya!
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.